Hello and welcome to the Product Leadership Power 15. I'm Jeremy Horn, the product guide, here to guide you through a thrilling journey into one of the minds of a wonderful product leader. Joining me today is Craig Cockburn, independent consultant at Silicon Glen. Together, we'll tackle 15 rapid-fire questions to uncover valuable insights and perhaps some unexpected surprises. Craig, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. First question is, what's the best product you've ever worked on?
Well, curiously, it's the one that I'm actually working on at the moment. It's called Cube. And there's a company I'm currently working for called Cockburn, and it's a software as a service that's revolutionizing entity management. Now, you probably don't know what entity management is, but it's the legal stuff that companies need to do to be compliant, like registering who's a director or how many shares they have or annual returns, all this sort of nitty-gritty back-end stuff. And it is completely revolutionizing that market. So we've had backing from the NASDAQ, and there's some really big players coming on board, and the company's growing very quickly as a result of terrific feedback. So it's innovative, meets a real need, and it's great to be involved in such a cutting-edge product.
What's the one feature you'd remove from your favorite app?
I use the BBC News app a lot, and in it, it gives me the weather, but it only gives me the weather from my registered home address. So if I'm 400 miles away, it's still giving me the weather back home, or if I'm abroad, it's still giving me the weather back home. Now, the BBC has a terrific weather app. So why doesn't it just link up with its weather app to tell me at least the weather where I'm at, rather than the weather that I'm not interested in?
All right, some stormy skies there. So Agile, Waterfall, or Lean?
Well, I'd just say all three in context. It really depends on the problem you're trying to solve.
Well, if I make you pick one, which would it be?
Well, it's not really about one. I mean, Agile is a selection of methods. And when we see Arie van Bekkenen at the Agile Manifesto, he represented DSDM that was quite closely aligned to Prince2, which was a sort of waterfall method. So it sort of spoke about doing things in a couple of stages just to get going, rather than just scale too quickly. So I see a lot of Agile methods talking about pragmatic lean governance. And so there's echoes of waterfall in there, but it's blended with an Agile strong emphasis. And Lean is coming into Agile too with Kanban. So really all three of them actually work really well. One in isolation is maybe not going to be optimal.
What's the biggest risk you've ever taken as a PM?
Well, big risk. Earlier in my career, when I was doing project management and digital transformations and so on, I did this really big high-profile website for number 10 Downing Street, the Prime Minister's office. It was a big successful launch. Everything went well. And then for phase 2, it was handed over to another supplier to deliver. And they had a much more sophisticated software solution with interactivity and comments and all this sort of thing. So fine, hand it over to them. That launched, and it ended up not going so well. So the press were on our back, and it's like, oh, this website is not doing the thing, and there's inappropriate comments on it. And it was like, we need to come in and rescue this. And so the biggest risk there was, I think it was a Friday lunchtime, I got the call of this new website isn't really doing its job. It's going to be in all the Sunday papers. And so we managed to repurpose the old website, put new content on it, redirect the new website to the old website on different hosting infrastructure at a different web address, do that seamlessly, and relaunch a website in about 6 hours, end to end, go live on the Friday, and then the press didn't really have a story to print. And that was for a very high profile, very high volume transactional website. And I thought, that was pretty good, right? Because if that had gone wrong, it'd been all over the press. And it wouldn't have been my name, but still, it was good to have pulled that one off in record time. Very agile ways of working without any reference to Scrum or any methodology. It was just bring the right people in the room and make quick decisions.
What's your favorite product metric?
Well, there's so many metrics. It's like a Forrest Gump selection box. It's like everything's a different flavor, and there's the R metrics and so on. But when I was looking into this, I was thinking, well, there's a thing called viral coefficient, and that's basically how much people and then share, and then that sharing then leads on to other customers. So that's really a key driver of growth, which, working with a startup just now, that sort of thing really matters. Growth and product management go hand in hand, and it's all about growth. So getting that viral coefficient up, but like any metric, it's not just the numbers. It's the story behind them. So what's doing it? What sectors are sharing? Under what circumstances? What time of day? Where's that coming from? What customers are there? All that story underneath is far more exciting and useful than just the number itself. But if that number goes up, it's free marketing.
What's the most underrated skill for a product manager?
A lot of product management is about people, right? And I wouldn't even say it's underrated. It's so essential to be good with people, good with managing different stakeholders and difficult stakeholders, and balancing competing interests, and not just the stakeholder side and the business side, and what the business needs, what the customers need, and also what the technical people need, so we're not building up technical debt. So it's very much those people skills. But sometimes I see in job adverts, it's like, we recruit too much for hard skills and not enough for soft skills. It's like, do you have experience of this market, or do you have experience of this sector, or have you done a product like this? And that kind of eclipses the softer side of just dealing with people that are demanding and difficult to say no to.
Have you ever scrapped a product launch at the last minute?
I have been involved in several launches that got delayed due to quality issues. Early in my career, I was a test lead, and I really enjoyed that. I liked getting under the covers and then seeing how things worked and taking them apart, putting them back together again, including test environments and everything. And I did a lot of testing and found a lot of bugs. And as a result, that particular product launch was then delayed by about 8 months, because I shared the bugs, we had a review. Some of them were kind of minor, some of them very significant. And the two parties then decided that, well, actually, this would be a bit embarrassing if it was to go live, and some of these things would be scrutinized by the media, because, again, this was a very high public sector launch that could have had quite negative consequences had it gone badly wrong.
What's one buzzword you think should be retired from product management?
Well, see, when we're talking about customers and where they sit and segmenting them, whenever anybody mentions Gen Z, my eyes glaze over. It's like, I still don't even really know what it means. And every time it's mentioned, I have to go looking it up. It's like, yeah, they're sort of young people, right? But I just go, well, how young and what age? And I can just never remember. And the thing is, it's like, people didn't change see, look at that boundary between Gen X and Y and Z, right? Or Z, because I'm in Britain. People didn't change their behaviours overnight. It's a sliding scale. So it's not just one block behaves homogeneously and the next block behaves a different way. It's a sliding scale. People like me who have been online all their adult life, I probably behave like some people who are younger than me, who then joined when the internet became much more mainstream. So my expectations are maybe similar to them. And I just think we should stop stereotyping people so much, stop being so ageist, and just understand what the consumer needs and look towards consumer needs rather than stereotypes. It's a sliding scale. It's not black and white.
I like that.
I'd also like to bin competitive salary, challenged in my next role, and other useless buzzwords like that, because they don't mean anything. Competitive salary usually means uncompetitive salary.
True. What's the best advice you've ever received about leadership?
I would say the best advice is just don't stop learning. I mean, I come from the world of Agile. We talk about continuous learning. And, I went to university. I then went back and did a postgrad some years later. A few years after that, I went back to college to do a language course. And I've invested in doing all sorts of things around Agile, and more recently learning things about critical thinking, which culminated in qualifications after about 3 or 4 years of experience learning that. So I just believe in continuous learning, because the world is continuously evolving and you need to keep pace with it. So the overall thing is about continuing to learn. And in order to do that, it's not just the formal stuff in the books and the webinars. It's about looking to other leaders in the field, see what they're saying, connect with them, build up networks, and build that network around you that's partly work, but partly outside of work. So you've got people to bounce ideas off, maybe on WhatsApp, whatever, and socialize with. And so you've got that diverse learning community around you that's part of that continuous learning experience.
In that vein of continuous learning, is there anything you've learned recently?
But as I say, like the critical thinking stuff, I kind of finished that a couple of months ago, and I was just doing a talk on product leadership and critical thinking in Romania in September, came back from that, in which I said, well, using critical thinking tools, and there's a whole panoply of, like, there's about 20 odd of them that I know of now, they help people make better decisions. Because a bit like the way that we use personas to say, well, what would it be like in that situation for that type of user? You can take that sort of example and say, well, imagine we were to do something. How would this look from our point of view? How does this organization see itself? How do the customers see themselves? How do the customers see the organization? And how does the organization see the customers? So that's what's called 4 ways of seeing. And through that, you can then draw up lists to see what's common and what's different. And so it's bringing some kind of thinking that we currently use and changing it. And that was just one example. And we can use this in things like takeovers and mergers, or pre-mortem is another one, to say, well, if we were to do this, what's the worst that could possibly happen? And then work backwards. Because when I first learned about this in March 2020, and I think back, that's when COVID was like breaking, I was in this class and we were washing our hands, right? So that was just fine. And we did a pre-mortem exercise in which we said, well, what's the worst that would happen with COVID? And I sort of drew out a failure scenario, worked backwards, and about stage 3 of that was there will be a second wave of the virus and it will be worse than the first, and there'll be a second wave of lockdowns. Now, I mean, I'm no virologist, but even just using that sort of thinking, it turned out to be correct, right? So the right tools can actually bring out not just the experience in the room, but the latent experience even from non-experts. It's really interesting to see how these techniques and practices can be incredibly useful, and you don't need to rely on consultants so much.
What product do you wish you had built?
Well, the story here, and I'm on Wikipedia for this, is that earlier in my career, I invented an early browser. And it's up there on my website, and the patent application for it. I was working for Digital. It's the world's leading networking company. I actually happened to be in the networking department, writing networking software. So we had access to tech in the late 80s that's like taken for granted now, like email and instant messaging globally. So you could send a message and instantly it would arrive on someone's terminal on a network of 100,000 computers. So that technology was readily available to us then. And there was a call to say, well, the company's kind of struggling after the crash of 87. We're looking for great ideas. And I was sitting there in front of my terminal, and I could click on a window and read a virtual manual about how to operate the software. You click on the contents and you see the stuff on the right. It's just like Kindle. And I said, well, wouldn't it be great if I had something like that, but it was portable? And you could take it around with you, and you could read your email, because I had email to my house at that point. And I just like envisaged this all-in-one device. It was portable, a bit like a laptop, and you could do all this stuff. And basically clicking on links and hypertext was already there. So it's really just the next small step onwards. And you read back, and even because I was in England and fed up reading English news and wanted Scottish news, I said, wouldn't personalised news be a great thing? And then you could just subscribe to the news that you wanted. So I packaged this up, and my boss said, oh, this is great. And this was a year before Digital built its first PC. But then there was a restructuring, and my new boss said, well, that's pie in the sky, nobody will ever buy that. And to some extent, he was right, because nobody ever bought a browser. They were always free. And the reason they took off was because Tim Berners-Lee worked for an educational establishment. Had mine taken off, it would have been patented left, right, and centre, licensed, and then nobody would have bought it, right?
So who in product management has influenced you the most?
Again, this is a tricky one, actually. When I first got into this field, Roman Pichler was the big name. I think it was about 2010. In Agile, he wrote one of the first books. And I still look to him. I hosted him for a couple of talks a few years ago, but I'm now like looking around just to see different people. So like John Cutler would be one, Melissa Perry would be another. I hosted her in Edinburgh with a few of us at a talk when she launched Escaping the Build Trap. But also leaders like Alan Mullally, he wouldn't think of a product leader, he's a CEO. But the thinking that he makes and the leadership style that he exhibits is quite compatible. It's about openness, it's about transparency in decision making. So what I do is I look to these leaders and I go, well, what things are they talking about that's just them? But what are the common patterns? Because the common patterns like great leadership and inclusion and honesty, those are the things that are really strong, consistent traits. So then you build up a picture of, as a great product manager or a great product leader, what are the things that the leaders are speaking about that's common? And then that's the things that I try to follow. What's the most used tool in your PM toolkit? Well, I would say this is a funny one, right? So I was at this talk by a chap called Dan Vacanti, and he does a lot of maths and forecasting and cycle times and lead times and all the data behind that. And he effectively said that a lot of these decisions in product leadership and product management are about bang for the buck, right? How much value we're going to get from this and how much effort and time is it going to take to build. And those things are very hard to really estimate properly. There's so much uncertainty. And of course, if it's good bang for the buck, it might be a long cycle to build that and get that out the door, in which point the market might have changed. So he actually was able to prove that shorter cycle times is the secret sauce. If you get cycle times down to smaller and smaller cycles, like from several months to 1 month, although you're doing less, it's actually more valuable because you're able to reprioritize, you're able to learn faster. So once you get cycle times down, the whole discussion about estimation and value actually fades into almost second place, because you get so much certainty because you're working with much more current data about what people are doing with the product and how the market's changing, that almost trumps the ability to estimate value and cost. So I would always try to prefer that the tool is, what can we do to get the cycle time down and faster feedback? What's the one thing every new product manager should know? Be humble. Don't come with, I'm the product manager, I know all the answers, or I'm going to tell you what to do. Listen, I came from a technical background. I would work in business, and people know more about the business than me. You're working in an organization where there's product managers, there's technical leads, there's people that maybe been there a long time. And it's all about not going in there with an ego and being very willing to listen to people who are more experienced in that organization or more experienced with the product environment that you're using if you've gone in there new, and just be humble and willing to listen and learn. If you weren't in product management, what would you be doing? Well, a bit like this. I wouldn't necessarily be a podcast host, but I was just off giving a talk abroad recently, and I just love training and education generally. So when I was an Agile coach, I would be doing a lot of building courses, delivering courses, and delivering with other people so that we would learn as trainers off of one another. And I just enjoy the feedback at the end of the what people said about the course, and they enjoyed it. And also really then following up to say, well, and what difference did it make? And how were you able to do your job better? And let's meet up again and see how you're getting on if you need any more help. So really just kind of enjoy spreading knowledge. And a long time before I got into product management and Agile and all these sorts of things, way back I used to write I wrote a free guide to Scotland online. And, this was back in the days of FAQs, which is another term in ban on websites, by the way, but back then it was a thing. And it's just like, the feedback I got from that was immense. It's like people saying, this is really useful, this is really helpful. Seth Godin listed me in a book of email addresses to the rich and famous as a deep thinker. I was thinking, wow, my name's really getting around here just by doing free stuff. It's not very good for paying the bills, but it's really enjoyable. Yeah.
Describe your leadership philosophy in 5 words.
What would I say about that? I would say the people-oriented. I know that's 2 words. Thinking long-term, or so long-term. Be inclusive, innovative, and useful.
I lost count. Was that 5?
So people, long-term, inclusive, innovative, and useful. Yeah, that was 5.
All right.
and the inclusive bit is really important because I do, as an interest of mine, I write about inclusion a lot, disability, neurodiversity, and tying it in with product management is like the whole 80-20 rule of like, you know, get 80% of the market with 20% of the effort and stuff. It's like, just make sure that 20% isn't disabled people, right? You know, your MVP needs to not exclude disabled people just because they're harder, because they are, you know, the valuable people that are often neglected. So
Craig, you've been supercharged by the Power 15. How does it feel?
Thank you. I feel charged up.
There you have it. Craig has expertly navigated the Product Leadership Power 15, sharing quick yet powerful insights into leading in today's dynamic environment. Craig's thoughts on continuous learning are bound to inspire many. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit like and share it with your product leader friends. Let's spread these insights far and wide. Thanks for being with us, and don't miss out our next episode for more rapid-fire wisdom from product experts. I'm Jeremy Horn, the Product Guy. See you next time.